what point did it become a dangerous activity to keep your food fresh?
I'm glad I wore my boots. That was a particularly sticky part of the walk. I think there might be some big cows around.
You discovered that they were actually perforated, so
Imagine,
it's like toilet
tissue.
roll. But that means you've got to put...
I'll see you later for more walking the dales. No. I'll see you later for more walking the moors.
So I'm thinking I can't put my meatballs on the perforation. It was all too much.
Because just being here stirs memories from a distant past. Well, not to that. No, that's rubbish.
Why is it now I need industrial cutting equipment to open a packet of biscuits?
Yeah, it's just...
It's a wrap. 1, 2.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bakery Bears video show featuring walking the moors.
Ah.
Now then, the last time we went for a walk, you may recall that we were striding out in the classical Yorkshire Dales, and we went to Bowes, and we had probably the best walk I've ever done.
That was a lovely one.
In a long time. Seriously, in all the ones that we filmed for the Walking the Moor / Walking the Dale series, definitely my favourite. And the question was, could the moors compete? Well, it turns out they could.
They can.
Oh yes, wait till you see it later on in the show. It's just...
I'm not going to give anything away.
Before we get going today in the Bakery Bears video show, I wanted to take a moment to talk about cling film. Some of you may know this as saran wrap. I'm not really sure why that is the case.
No, I don't know why it's called that.
I wonder if that's a brand name.
I wonder if it is.
I think it must be.
Maybe.
Because-
yeah, a bit like...
Tylenol.
Tylenol is... What's that? Paracetamol.
Yes, I think.
Right.
Yes. Anyway, look. We're going to take a minute to talk about cling film because I wanted to know at what point did it become a dangerous activity to keep your food fresh?
Yeah.
Because you have sliced your hand.
Well, that's... All of that is from it.
Is it?
Yes. Because we got... Right.
It all started with Sainsbury's.
Yeah, we normally get Sainsbury's, just normal cling film, never a problem. But you bought one recently and it wasn't clingy. It was like just not clingy. It was rubbish. So the next time you went, you got some baker foil. Is it baker foil?
Yes. And they decided that it would be a good idea to move the blade. So you know how for generations, since the dawn of humanity, the blade on the cling film has been underneath as you pull it out.
Yeah.
But someone at Beggarful thought, I know what we'll do. Just for fun, why don't we put the blade above?
Above it.
So instead of pulling downwards, you have to pull upwards.
Yeah, but what that means is when you pull it out, the blade comes down and catches my hand, and I've actually sliced 2 fingers twice, with the huge paper cuts with it as well, because the blade is also like... It's metal. I'm sure it's metal.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a metal blade. It's normally just cardboard serrated.
My other question to the geniuses at Bacofoil is, the blade is on... Imagine you're opening a box and someone put on the edge of the box that you're going to open a blade.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What do you think you're going to do?
But
so we thought...
Well, we're using it because you can't be wasteful, can you?
No. So we thought, this is crazy. I'll keep using the dangerous one.
Yeah.
And we'll get Kay another one. So we did. So off I went to Marks and Spencer's to buy one of theirs, thinking, it's Marks and Spencer. You expect a cut above the rest. And I purchased one, and...
I couldn't work it out.
It wouldn't cut, would it?
No, it wouldn't cut. There was no way of cutting it. There was no blade of any description. It was just cardboard. But then, after me struggling with it, just yanking it off and just getting so annoyed, you discovered that they were actually perforated. So
Imagine, it's like toilet tissue.
roll. But that means you've got to pull off this much.
How wasteful is that?
That's wasteful. If I just want a little bit, it's wasteful. So now you have to... It's a whole big cling film.
And I had a huge dilemma.
Nightmare.
I had a huge dilemma the other day. I was making meatballs.
Right.
And I needed a double length.
Right.
But I'm thinking, hold on a minute. There's no cling film coverage down the central bit, which has got the perforations on it. So I'm thinking, I can't put my meatballs on the perforation. It was all too much. I'm starting to wonder, is it age? Because
Probably.
I remember watching my parents and my gran when I was like 14, 15, 16, struggling with things. And I'm just beginning to wonder.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
I'm beginning to wonder, is it that we're just getting a little bit older?
Maybe. I think the worst thing is when you get that cellophane wrapped over things like tea bag.
Yeah.
Then, you know, and I mean, my mum just can't get into things.
No.
And I know they have those little pulley things, but
It's crazy.
older people can't see those.
Look.
And you end up getting a knife in there.
Look,
And
you're raising a much wider point, and that is, what is the deal with packaging?
packaging.
Why
is
is
a
it now
nightmare.
I need industrial cutting equipment to open a packet of biscuits?
Yeah, it's just crazy. I think
we
packaging
buy
has gone bonkers.
I mean, it's two things in particular that I really struggle with. It's we buy those Nairn's gluten-free biscuits,
Yes.
and the packet is so snug to the biscuits that I can't physically get my fingers around the
Can't
packet.
get into it.
But even when you can get your hands to the plastic packaging, it's impossible to open it in the way that we all remember.
Yeah,
you know, when you bought a bag of sweets and you pulled them open like that and
Like
it
that.
opened and away you went. Now you need scissors, don't you? So on those Nairns ones, it's a nightmare. But also the other one I have a problem with is I get these Grays. Grays is a company who makes a range of different things, but they make, again, it's gluten-free. It is...
Like oaty sort of bar things, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right.
And it looks like it's in paper.
It's like waxed paper.
Yeah, but on the inside,
My
it's
hand
sort of,
just slips off.
you can't open them. I know.
Honestly, you're like, ugh. It's
Maybe
just,
it is an age thing, because I'm sure a 20-year-old wouldn't be bothered about these things.
no. But is it that the world moves forward so quickly that
Maybe.
it's impossible? And I always think that, I used to think with my parents that, in their formative years, when they were sort of, flying high, when they were in their sort of 30s and early 40s, everything is easy to sort of keep up with. But as soon as you get a little bit past that, it gets to be a bit of a challenge.
I just don't have the patience for these things anymore either. I really don't have the patience
And also as well,
for it.
I get terrified because you're like thinking, how am I going to get into these? And quite often you'll be in front of the drawer, you'll get out a great big kitchen knife,
Yeah, I know.
and you'll find yourself
Doing
like
this.
shoving a massive kitchen knife through a packet. It's like, this is not a good idea.
It annoys me even when I have to go in the cupboard and get scissors out to cut things. For example, the yeast packets.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them you can just tear. It's lovely. Others you have to get the scissors out. It really doesn't matter, does it? These things,
It is hilarious though, isn't
they're
it?
kind
how-
of non-issues. I realise
You would
that.
have thought, wouldn't you? It's a non-issue, but it's a non-issue because you would assume that cling film is such a staple, as is kitchen foil, as you see, I didn't call it silver foil, as is also, opening a packet of biscuits. It's such a staple. You would think, or opening a packet of yeast, there'd be a universal accepted way of packaging them that everybody would
It's
use.
because
But
everybody
no.
tries to do something different to
We're
everyone
going to do
else,
it
don't
differently.
they? Yeah.
Yeah, which brings us back to Bako foil and their blade on the upper
honestly,
edge.
don't buy Bako foil.
What were you thinking?
Cling film. Don't buy it. It's just unless you want to tear your hand to shreds.
Yes.
Then.
Now, speaking of age, would you believe that we have just published the 30th issue?
Thank goodness. I didn't know what you were going to say then.
Oh, no. We don't talk about age. We did a radio show a few weeks ago about how we don't use numbers anymore because it's just not important. It's how you feel. We just published the 30th issue of our magazine, Knitability.
We did. Happy birthday.
I know, can you believe it? Our wonderful editor, Genda Maria, did a absolutely amazing
very
job.
pretty. She's very
Gorgeous.
good at making things pretty and
Yes.
lovely, and there's bunting
Yes.
and it's lovely.
Now, what makes this issue of Knitability so special is first of all, it is our 30th. 2017 is when it started.
Gosh, wow.
That's when we put out our first issue of Knitability.
Right.
And
So we're in our 4th year now.
yeah. And over all the issues, we've interviewed so many wonderful designers, so many wonderful makers, but there's articles and you shared. There's exclusive patterns in there. There's also
Recipes.
There's recipes. Speaking of recipes, 30th birthday. What do you need? Well, you need bunting, and thanks to Jen, we had that. You also need guests, and we do have those because we interview lots of them, and some of them write some articles. But also, you need cake.
Yes, we had a cake. I decided to try and make a Victoria sponge using spelt flour, and it came out lovely.
It was a blooming triumph.
We ate most of it.
What you
But
want
it was lovely.
with a cake
It was really nice.
is a cake that you know you can absolutely pile it in and know that it's not going to make you feel sick.
Well, neither one of us pile anything in these days, but
Those days are gone.
I ate 2, maybe 3 slices of it, and I was totally fine. You had probably the
The
same.
heady days of when I could pile loads of
I
cake in
know,
and use
I
cling
know.
film without cutting my hand open.
But yeah, we both ate it without a problem, and it was lovely. And I gave some to Bryony, and she's like, it tastes just like cake. She couldn't tell any different. So I put the recipe in there.
That is now our go-to cake. Oh yes.
Yeah.
But not only was there the gorgeous cake, we also interviewed Starry Nordland, who just she does the most amazing designs.
Yeah.
But also, stop the presses, Lauren from Lolo did it.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, we've all seen Lauren's amazing yarn and her lovely,
Beautiful.
I mean, everything, because she does patterns,
Yeah.
all sorts.
Yeah.
And it was just wonderful to get the opportunity to sit down with Lauren and do a wonderful interview. So, there's one more thing, isn't there, that happens at parties? Who remembers? It was like Pass the Parcel, wasn't it?
That's the parcel.
And there was other games and musical chairs, which always ended with
In tragedy when
Yes.
you've got kids, yeah.
as well, especially young boys.
Yeah.
Don't play musical chairs with young boys
Yeah.
because either the chairs are going to break or the boys are.
Yeah, it's true.
Disaster.
It's true.
But a party needs prizes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have you covered.
Yes.
Because the wonderful Lauren has donated to us. Take a look at this. In there, there's yarn, there's patterns, there's all sorts. There's a little bit of everything that she produces. Completely gorgeous prize package that Lauren has very kindly said she'll post anywhere in the world.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Lauren. So what that means is we need a competition.
We need a competition.
Now, this is one of those cool competitions where the question is like super simple.
Yes. Do you see those? They pop up on the telly all the time, don't they? Answer this question and you could win this amazing house.
My favourite is the word search thing in the middle. And, there's a famous science fiction film hidden somewhere in this word search. Right in the middle.
Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
It's along those lines.
Oh dear. Now, there is a competition. And to enter the competition, you need to have seen Knitability.
Yeah.
And look, we are only here thanks to our Bakery Bear patrons, as I'm sure, long-time viewers know. And Knitability is only available to our patrons. And, well, we just thought we should make this copy of Knitability available to everybody from now until Monday morning.
Yes.
So hopefully you're watching this. Now, today's the 14th. And Monday morning is the 17th.
Yeah.
So at 9 a.m. on the 17th of May 2021, Knitability will no longer be available for free. But from now until then, you can go straight to this address, this web address that I've listed in the show notes below, and you can download Knitability, and it's yours for nothing.
Fabulous.
I know. How cool is that? So you're getting actually a gift just for coming to our party.
Absolutely.
A copy of our magazine.
Yes.
How do you win the gorgeous yarn and pattern and all sorts from Lauren? Well, you answer this question. What is the name of the pattern pictured on page 23 of issue 30 of Knitability?
Yes.
Did I say that right?
Yes.
Excellent.
So go to page 23 of Knitability. There's a pattern on there. Tell us the name of it.
So how do you tell us? Well, you need to email us at hello@bakerybears.com.
Yeah. Simple.
And all you do is you email us and you tell us the name of that pattern, and then we will random number draw a winner.
Yes.
And we will announce the winner on the next video show.
On the next video show. So maybe put in the header of your email, prize draw.
Yes.
Just so we know.
Prize draw.
Yeah.
Tell us your answer.
Yeah.
And make sure that your answer has reached us by 9 a.m. British summertime on the 24th of May 2021.
Yes.
But we didn't just stop there. Oh no, because we didn't think that one prize was enough. So we thought there needed to be 2 more prizes. So the first person we draw will win that gorgeous hamper from Lauren.
Yeah.
The second person we draw will win Kay's Swish and Flick collective.
Yes.
Oh yes, how many patterns were in there?
8. There's 8 patterns. They're all Harry Potter themed. Yeah.
So the second prize is the Swish and Flick collective, and the third prize...
The third prize will be my new blanket pattern, because my new blanket pattern comes out on the 25th of May. So yeah, the third prize winner will win my new blanket pattern, which I will be revealing on the next show.
Oh wow. How cool is that? Now, what more could you want? There's a party, there's cake, there's guests, and there's prizes.
Yarn, there's patterns.
Oh my goodness. Now, if you're watching this show after the 17th of May, and you have to pay to get access to Knitability, it's only going to cost you $2.
Yeah.
The equivalent. It's not much, is it, at all? So for $2, you get access to Knitability, and also as well, as that's what we call a bronze patron, you would also get to watch our next pop show.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Folks, what a start to the show. That is enough waffle. I shall say nothing, act very casual, and ask, Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
The first thing I've been working on is my lovely little sock garland. I started this, if you remember, a few weeks back, and I'm knitting 24 little socks I'm using them as an advent, but you can do whatever you want with them. And this is going to be the platinum pattern for September. I've been working a bit more on them, and I don't know how to sort of display these, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop them onto a pencil because I couldn't think how else to sort of best display them. And I'll sort of show them individually to you. I've done quite a few more since I last showed you. I've done 8 now, so I'm a third of the way through. I'll show them all together and then I'll show you individual ones. So this is where I'm up to. Look at the colours. Aren't they lovely? I'll show you that way and you can see all the lovely colours, and then I'll show you them sort of individually. So I'm trying to think what I'd shown you last time, and it might have been these 3 or 4, I forget. But within this pattern there's going to be the sort of basic stocking stitch pattern for little just sort of plain sock, and then there's actually 2 textured options because I've added another one and I'll show you that. One of the texture options is this little sort of swirl pattern, which I think is really sweet. It's like tinsel going around a tree, I think. So you get a little swirl pattern. And then one of the new ones I've done, I decided I wanted to have a ribbed sock in there. So I've done a little garter rib, which I think is just so cute. So that's an extra little texture pattern. There's the eyelet one, which I showed you last time, just some lovely little eyelet. And then this one, which I think is my favourite, it's just got this little bit of colour work at the top. How sweet is that? And it kind of reminds me of little fairy lights running around the top of the sock, and I love it in the lemon.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of all of the different stitch patterny things that you'll get. I designed this so that the I-cord, the hangy I-cord, is integrated in. You don't have to knit that separately, it's all worked together. And then it's got this little heel which looks like a short row heel, but it's not. Something else I've done recently, do you know I had all this hoo-ha over how when I use Magic Loop with the Chow Goo mini twists, because the cable's so thin, and that last stitch drops onto the cable before you move needles, I get this sort of tight stitch and you get this little line running down. You can see it on the lemon one, that slight line running down. Since I noticed it, it's just been bugging me. So for a couple of these, I switched the needle and I used an Addy lace, which I used to use a lot actually for sock knitting. I mean, that's the difference. I don't really see a line down that one. And that's because the cable's that bit thicker and, you know, you're not getting that tightening down to that really skinny cable that you get on the mini twist. So although I absolutely love the mini twists, you know, they're fabulous to work with, just the fact that I've been getting that line, it's just been bugging me. So I've been sort of switching it a bit lately.
How did you find the Addy lace compared to the Chowgu?
I preferred the Addy lace to the Chowgu red lace, definitely.
Right.
Because the Chowgu red lace, again, I used to love that needle for knitting socks, but now it's just, it feels too stiff for me now. But the Addy, and I've got it here actually.
You need to do a review of these needles.
I know. I mean, I've gone back to sort of using needles that I used years and years ago. This is the one that I've been using, just the Addy lace, and it looks like this. It's got a red cord, and the points are nice, not as pointy probably as Chowgu's, but perfectly pointy enough. I think I didn't have an issue at all, and pleasant to work with. I didn't, it was fine. It was totally fine. So I'm going to keep going now with this one.
Do you foresee a future where you'll knit a big pair of socks using the Addy?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, I love the Chowgu mini twists. They're just so nice to work with. They're so pleasant because that cable is so it's not got a memory. It's just so pleasant. There's no tension there at all when you're sort of switching from one needle to the other. You don't really notice that there's a cable there, and I love that. I've still got one sock on the go. I'll show you in a bit actually that I'm using the mini twists for, and I'm just trying to consciously not pull it too tight in between the changeover. I don't know, I think you just go into that sort of muscle memory thing, don't you? And I think it's difficult to retrain. Take some time to retrain yourself when you're so used to working in a particular way. Working these little socks I did that one, and I did the lovely coral. I love this colour. I think it's called,
Oh yeah.
I think it was coral or coral blush or something like that. Really pretty, peachy colour. But it's working fine. They're working fine for these little socks, and they're quite, they're not fiddly at all, but it's a small little thing, and I didn't find this needle to have any problems. So I'm going to carry on with that. And maybe, I have said that the next pair of socks that I knit for you, which I'm going to be casting on over this next week or so, I'm going to try DPNs.
What yarn are you using?
I'm going to try DPNs again. The opal that I showed last time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next socks I'm going to knit down, I'm going to use some double points just to try that again, because I've not used double points for ages. And I actually bought some cubics, the square ones.
Like mine.
But they're wooden.
Aha.
Because I really like wooden double points. And I found some cubics, wooden ones, so I'm going to give that a go and see how I feel about it.
Oh, I love cubics.
So yeah, I'm carrying on with my lovely little socks, and I've lost the order now. Let me see if I can put them in the right order, because I've put these in sort of a colour order. It's not a rainbow or anything like that, because we've got all kinds of different colours in there, but it is a lovely colour order, and this is probably the wrong order. I'll have to look back on my notes just to make sure I get them in the right order. But don't they look sweet together? All the lovely colours. Aren't they pretty? So I've got, how many have I done? I've done 8, so I've got another 16 to go, is that right? And I've got all of the yarns ready here. I think the next one it might be this lovely orange. It's the next one, I think. But there's some gorgeous shades in here, some new ones actually that I've not knit with before. This is a lovely one. I can't remember the name of might be Orchid. Can't wait to get onto that one. So I'm just working my way through knitting my little socks. I did do a little bit more jiggling with the heel. Every time I knit it, I just try something a tiny bit different. I just want to make sure I get the neatest little join I can, and I think this was the last one I did, and I think it is, those corners, look, I think they are really neat, aren't they? And it's very pleasant to work, this heel. And I've actually tried it on a full size swatch. It looked great. And I'm also going to use it in a different weight of yarn for a sock for Knitty-U.
Ooh!
And I'll show you that maybe next time, that project, because I have started that one, but I want to get to that heel point before I show you. But yeah, that's my lovely little, and I'm using 2.5mm for these because it just produces a nice gauge, I think, for these. You don't need, they obviously don't need to fit anyone. And I just liked the 2.5mm. But I think they're just going to look so cute when they're all done.
Cool.
Yes. Dan Jones.
Yes.
What's on your needles?
It's a sweater.
Ooh.
It's a brand new cast on, and I've made quite a bit of progress.
Oh, get on.
There's nothing more lovely than doing decreases on a sweater.
Once we figured them out.
Well, no, I'd already started them. I'd already done some decrease rounds already. Right. It is cool doing decrease rounds on a sweater for so many reasons. I think that it's the sort of I'm approaching the end feeling, which is great. But also, too, I really like the fact that if you're... I mean, it's not the biggest size, this, at all. I can't remember exactly which size it is.
It's large, I think. I think there's 2 sizes above it.
Yeah. Also, it's wonderful when you do a decrease round and then suddenly it takes you half the amount of time to do your next few rounds, which is obvious, isn't it? Because you've decreased in stitches. But mentally, that just doesn't seem to go in for me. You know, you do a decrease round and like, oh, this is going quicker. Yeah. Well, of course it is. There's half as many stitches on the needles. Look! I've done loads.
Look at that. That's amazing.
The mistake I was making...
What's this one called?
It's the Ridari.
Ridari.
The mistake I was making was I was trying to rush it. So after the last time I showed it to you here on the video show, I tried to do it lots and lots and lots. So in the times when I would normally be knitting on other things, I would pick this up, do it, and it really messed up my routine. So on... I think it was the episode before last on my self-contained knitter, I really sort of took stock and decided that the worst thing you can ever do, I think, when you're approaching the end of a project is to force it and rush it. And that's for 2 reasons. If you're enjoying knitting it, why would you want to rush finishing it? But also, I think as soon as you step outside of your usual routine with your knitting, that's when your technique and your gauge and all those things, I certainly find, they get affected for me. You need to keep it in the slot. And because I do think the tightness that you knit at is affected by when it is in the day.
Absolutely. And
isn't that funny?
I think it's affected by everything. Like you say, time of day, mood... You know, for example, I can show you something that I finished actually, and one of them is slightly bigger than the other one, but everything is exactly the same. It's just because my tension is different. It doesn't matter really for the finished thing, but I noticed it. So I think it's lots of things affect your tension. For me, it's mainly stress levels and things like that. You know, if I'm stressed, I'll knit tighter.
But speaking of stress levels, my stress levels have gone through the roof.
It's
knitting
beautiful.
So much of this black because as you may recall,
but doesn't it look
from
fabulous?
The cast on,
it looks gorgeous though.
Well, that's
having
great,
that contrast. I think it's just beautiful. The
black is really splitty, and it goes so thick and thin. This yarn is wonderful. It is. It's like hand spun, but I was just there. I mean, it'll go suddenly really thin, and literally without any.
It'll just break.
I could just pull it apart, and you're just terrified. It's silly to be terrified because the yarn is so forgiving in the fact that you just then tink it back a bit, as I did when I split it down here, splice it, and then you just carry on, and it's no problem. But I just don't want that to happen because I don't know.
It's so lovely though, isn't it?
Yes, it's a great pattern, and you know everything about it I've enjoyed. The only challenge that I had but it's a free pattern, so you can't really complain too much. But the only challenge I've had with it is last night on one of the decreases, we had to shift the start of the round because that was where one of the decreases need to be. It crossed over.
A crossover around, and there's no reference to that in the pattern. You just got to kind of.
So long as you've got your wits about you, and so long as you're looking forward and you're thinking about what you're doing, you're not going to have a problem. I mean, it's funny because when you talk about knitting and having your wits about you, that's not something you would ever associate with me. Well, considering how many times I've knitted socks and forgotten to do the heel turn.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
I get into a zone. You get into a zone, don't you? A sort of relaxed zone, and you just keep going.
It's all right. Gosh, it's warm just having it laying on me like this. It's so warm.
What's been a really great process for me to go through is with the yarn. The yarn, I could not speak more positively about the yarn.
And it's the Letlopi.
Yes, but I don't think... I mean, I'm going to see how it wears. I think, though, 2 of these...
will be enough.
Knitted in Letlopi will be enough.
Yeah.
Because... the yarn brings with it some unique challenges, and the stickiness is probably the most unique of those challenges, because the way that I knit to avoid the yarn dominance causes the yarns to twist a lot. You know, my working yarn twists a lot, and because this yarn is so felty, it's often stuck together.
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of my time
you have to pull it apart.
Untangling. But forgetting all of that, even if you weren't using the technique I use for yarn dominance, just the yarn sat in the bag, it will stick to everything else that's in there and pull it out with it. Yeah. So that is quite frustrating. But do you know what? The funny thing is, the thing that frustrates me the most about the yarn is, I think that if you are a novice colourwork knitter, you should knit with this yarn. If you have developed a colourwork technique that works for you and enables you to knit with more sort of squishy, softer, pretty yarns, I would say that actually knitting with this is quite frustrating, because I honestly believe I could be approaching the knitting of this with any technique I like and it would still look the way it looks. I could be wrong.
Well, I think the difference with you, I was just looking at it then from a distance to see whether I thought there was any colour dominance. And it's interesting because I don't think there is. I mean, see what you just look at it and think, does the black stand out or do the lighter colours stand out? And actually, I don't think either does. So I think the way that you work it to avoid colour dominance is working.
Right.
Because
what's colour dominance?
It's where you look at something
and your eye gets drawn.
And your eye gets drawn to either the dark colour or the light colour.
And how does colour dominance, how does that manifest itself?
It's because normally, as when you work colourwork, you will usually keep one yarn in the same position. So, for example, you will always have your dark colour on top and your light colour underneath.
So the colour dominance comes off the back of the yarn dominance thing?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So not only...
it's the same thing.
But it's a different symptom or cause, because the yarn dominance is where, like here, that would be disappearing.
Yeah, that's what happens because one stitch is slightly bigger than the other, and that's what causes the colour dominance.
So you'll get yarn dominance first, where that might be disappearing, but then also off the back of that, you'll also get a colour dominance.
It's because the size of the stitches is different,
right?
Depending on if because it's tension. It's down to tension,
right?
And it's getting that. What you've done is you've created. When I look at it, I see a very even tension all the way across. Yeah. Whereas if, when I've done colourwork before and I do keep the yarns in the same positions, black always on top, white always underneath or whatever, that's when I've got colour dominance, because what happens is one of the stitches is slightly smaller than the other, and then therefore the larger one will jump out at you. Yeah. And it's because your tension's not... the same for all of the different colours that you're using. But because you use that particular technique where you're always swapping what's on top, what's on bottom, it means that it's evening out your tension. And I think I've heard Arnie and Carlos say a similar sort of thing, in that they don't pay any attention to holding yarns on the top or the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's maybe, you know, if they don't get colour dominance, that's maybe why, because they're not, you know, they're doing effectively, I think, what you're doing, and you're changing the position of the what's on top, what's on the bottom.
I would always go one step further than not paying attention, because if you don't
pay attention. You're doing it in a particular way.
I am, and the reason why is I did try knitting where I just wasn't thinking about where things were going. But inevitably, if you don't think about where things are going, you might do a section where it does all stay in one position, and then it might swap. Yeah. So you might get 3 rounds which do have yarn dominance, colour dominance, and then you might get 3 rounds where you don't. So what I do is I think about every stitch, and I make sure that every stitch is alternate.
And it is, as I look at it close up, you know, the stitches look very even. I'll try and hold it up a little bit so you can see.
I love the halo.
Can you see how the stitches all look, to me, they all look about the same size.
I really love the halo on it.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen such an interesting looking halo.
That's what makes it so sticky.
Yeah. I mean, I love so much about it.
It's got a lot of brilliant qualities, the yarn.
Everything about it is brilliant. And for a beginner colourwork knitter, I would say go for it, because I think it's going to be very rewarding.
Yes.
And you're going to knit to a high quality, you know, fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've taken a long time and worked really hard at developing a technique which works for non-traditional colourwork yarns. And I want to work my technique. And also, whilst it's lovely to have this rustic finish, it's way lovelier to have something which just,
I struggle with sort of scratchy yarns. I've got to say, I do like really soft yarns next to skin. I mean, you'll have a shirt on underneath, won't you?
I wouldn't wear this sat around at home.
No, it's for walking.
It is solely for outdoor use.
Yeah.
And so what I would predict is that I will probably always have a couple. And when one wears out, I'll knit another one with the Let Lopey. But I'm now enthused and excited about knitting something like this with a non-traditional colourwork yarn.
Yeah. With a smoother yarn, you know. Smooth and soft. Oh, it's a hook.
Oh, what else is on your hook? A little fishy.
A little fishy. Yes, it's my lovely granny stripe blanket, my current granny stripe, I should say, because this is actually now my 3rd one. And I've been working on this. This is where I'm up to. Look. Oh,
it's lovely.
Isn't it sweet? I love the colours.
Yeah.
I've kept the marker in to show you where I was last time. Of course, now I can't see the thing. There it is. It's in the yellow section. You probably can't see it, but the marker's down here. I was on that golden yellow section. And I've done all of that. And I'm now using this green, which I think I dyed. I think I did.
Right.
It's just this lovely sort of mossy green, isn't it? A bright mossy green. And I'm nearly done with this mini. I think this was a 20-gram one. And I've just been working on this every evening. It's become my watching 24 project, because it gets so stressful watching 24 that I can't have anything complicated on the go, because I just forget where I'm at. Because something will happen, I'll be like, oh, what's wrong with Jack? And it's been perfect for that. And I've been doing maybe a couple of rows each night. I loved this sort of pinky purpley one I just put in. I think this was a Sherry Iris. This bit here was 2 of the little leftovers I had from my BTS Advent that I made myself. There was only I bet there was only about 4 grams of each of those, because I'd already used them in something else. But that was the very last bits. This lovely pinky colour, that's an Eden Cottage yarn. And it was called Stone Crop is the colourway. And I thought it'd be a more beigey colour when I ordered it. It's just a little mini. But it was actually this gorgeous pink. So I put that in. That's a full 20-gram mini. And then we've got a lovely blue. That one was Pixie Yarns, I think. The purple was mine. That was the last bit of another BTS one. And then the golden one was mine. That one was Time Turner. So I'm just really enjoying this. And I use a 3mm hook. I was watching Ali the other day, Little Drops of Wonderful, and she was talking about crochet hooks. And somebody had asked a question about what was her favourite hook, and Ali's not fussy. She will use anything. I am fussy, Ali, I am fussy about my crochet hooks. And I really like these Clover and More ones. And I don't think she had one of these, but she did have a similar one which had this sort of rubbery texture. But I really like this one because it's not really hard. I've tried the tulip needle hook, and because I really wanted that one because it's pink. I think the 3mm is a gorgeous pink colour, and so I thought I'm going to order one of those tulip hooks and try it. But the handle is much harder than this, so Ali, if you're watching, you might like the tulip ones because you don't mind that hardness. But I just really like the Clover Amore. So these are my favourites, and I have tried just the plain thin metal ones, but I just find it makes it's too small. It's too small a circumference to grip for me. I need something a little bit chunkier.
Yeah.
So these are definitely my favourite. And I chain 200, and it gives me this really nice lap size. If you can see, it's this big, but it's perfect for a lap size blanket. Because I don't tend to use massive blankets. They tend to be just one person will have a blanket. You don't like blankets at all. You just get hot all the time, so you don't particularly like them. But Bryony likes this size because it covers her and about 1 million teddies that inevitably she'll have around her. And it's just a perfect size for me, and you can get a couple of rows done, relatively quickly. And that's nice as well. I think if I did one, I see a lot of people who have chained like 300 and something. And I think, that's a nice size, but I think I'd just get bored doing, not getting to the end of a row for such a long time. So this is perfect for me. So I'm just carrying on, and I'm just randomly choosing yarns, whatever I fancy. There's no rhyme or reason. The only thing I'm trying to do is just vary the tones. So I'm trying to put in some lighter tones in between the brighter colours, just to give it that bit of interest. I think if you keep all the same tone all the way through it might look a bit flat, even if the colours are different. But just having lights and darks, I think then you can see the colours better. I can really see this lovely pink here, and this green I'm just putting in. You can really see the
sparkly ones.
Yeah.
And how much sparkle's in it?
A lot of them are sparkly, actually.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you look and you see one and it catches your eye, and then you see another, and then you see another. It's subtle. You would think that it would be more in your face sparkle.
No, I mean, you won't see the sparkle, but the Eden Cottage has got sparkle in, and then a few of mine that I've dyed have got sparkle in as well.
That one has?
Yeah, that was one of mine. That's
What's that one?
Easter Sprinkles, that one. That's one of mine. That's the purple one.
The purple's nice.
It was a Tae Young BTS.
And that's Time Turner, isn't it? That
colour.
one?
Oh, everyone. Would you like some BTS news? I know.
Probably not. No.
And no, some people like us to keep them informed on BTS. They've got a new song coming out on the 21st of May, and it's in English again, like Dynamite was. And bizarrely, it's called Butter. I can't imagine why they would call a song Butter or what it's going to be about, but it's very exciting in the house at the moment because it's not long until that happens.
There's lots. Oh, those are the ones you lent me last night?
Yes.
My goodness.
These scissors are lovely, and I don't know the manufacturer's name, but somebody out there might recognise it. I think I might have got them from Wool Warehouse, but I don't know.
They're really sharp.
And I think that's an M. It's not a W, is
it's
it?
An M. It's an M.
Well, it's these lovely needles, and can you see on the needle it's got an M, I think it is.
I was stunned, actually.
I only bought them fairly recently, so someone might recognise the brand out there. But they're brilliant. They're so sharp.
Yeah.
So these are in with my crochet, this project, because they're brilliant for, snipping, obviously, because they're scissors. But actually, I've had some scissors which are rubbish, but these ones are great. So if anyone, if you know what this brand is, please do comment underneath, because I'd love to get another pair, and I can't remember what they are. Thank you very much.
Hey,
what else are you working on?
Well, exactly what I was referring to a moment ago, which is colour work with yarn which isn't what you would expect to knit colourwork with. That would be the correct description, wouldn't it?
This is marvellous.
Look at that.
Look at that.
You can totally see the pattern.
You can now, yeah.
I always knew you'd be able to see it.
Beautiful. It just so reminds me of something. I think it is. I think at last time I said those kind of rich, heavy tapestry curtains. But do you know what, I mean by that? But obviously these colours wouldn't normally be associated with that, but it's just the look of it.
So it's a free pattern. It's the Ing hat. It starts with the lovely Latvian braid, which was great fun to do. And then on the pattern itself, you use a different colour here, but I didn't want to do that. On that band of pink, I wanted to use the same colour and then into the pattern itself. And the repeats are super long, so this does take me a while. I'd love to know, actually, it'd be interesting to know. I mean, obviously when you practice anything, you get better and better. And I find it really rewarding by doing these long repeats that are really challenging, because I find myself just getting better generally at colour work because of that, at remembering repeats. But I don't know how difficult this is or not. I mean, I think, is it a 40 stitch?
Yeah, it is. That's a huge repeat.
It's a 40 stitch repeat.
40 stitches, you could never remember that, I don't think. Not easily.
Now, you see, it's funny, isn't it? Because you could adopt all sorts of different techniques, couldn't you? You could put loads of stitch markers in, and I don't know. But I sort of like the challenge of not.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would use stitch markers for that.
Well, I haven't made a mistake yet.
No, you haven't.
But, it is taking me a little bit of time. But do you know what? Some of the best things take a bit of time, don't they? In fact, not some of the best things. Anything that's any good takes a bit of time.
There's nothing wrong with something taking time. I think we just live in a society where everything is instant these days, and
instant gratification is not.
I think you
proper lifelong gratification.
I just think you appreciate I certainly appreciate something much more if you know that the time and the effort and the, that's gone into it.
Yeah, it is really great fun, and it's knitting this at the same time as the Radari that's made me think, how great would it be to knit not a Radari, but something like that with yarn like this? Oh my goodness! Do you know what?
Because actually, you wouldn't need to have different colours, would you? You could just, because it's a variegated yarn, you could just have two colours, the variegated and the main colour, and not have to change colours.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably too early a stage to work out what colours and how I might approach it. More for me, it is having a jumper with material that feels like this. After I've been striding out on the moors or the dales with one of my Let Lopi, I can then come home, take that off, pop one of these babies on, and that's the type of thing that you could fall asleep in and it wouldn't scratch you.
And look at the pattern when I noticed this the other night. I just sort of glanced across and I saw it from a distance, and I said, I was literally stopped in my tracks. I said, that looks cool. Absolutely amazing. And doesn't it look amazing? Can you imagine me with this on my head?
People are going to be like
stopping me and saying, what is that hat on your head? It's amazing.
So, credit to, I think it's Sheila McDonald who designed this.
And I will say my husband did this hat for me.
Well, I think credit needs to go to Sheila McDonald, who wrote the pattern, and also credit needs to go to Kate, who dyed the yarn.
That's the
figgy pudding, isn't it?
Yeah, it's figgy pudding, which is this lovely variegated, and then I just did a pink to coordinate with it, and it's DK weight, and I think it's just 100% merino. This, I don't think there's any nylon in it, because I dyed it up with the thought that you might use it for a cowl, so it doesn't need to have nylon in. But you're using it for a hat, and that's perfect.
Beautiful.
And there'll be loads left over, I'm sure.
Do something else.
There'll be loads left over. You could do something else with it.
What else is in there?
Well,
what is it?
It's another sock.
Oh, it's lovely. Oh, I love this sock.
I'm almost...
This is amazing.
Almost nearly done.
I'm going to knit these.
Yes, you'll enjoy these. And it's in my lovely bag from Emma, Eden Cottage Yarns. It's one of my absolute favourites. The pink-haired lady walking through the woods with her dog with a rucksack on, because we all want to be that pink-haired lady, I think. Fabulous. In this lovely bag, I've got my Moss Eccles socks.
Yes.
these are the lovely green socks that were inspired by Moss Eccles Tarn in the Lake District. And I'm well on with sock 2. When I last showed you, I'd only just finished sock 1. And I'm now almost done with the gusset decreases on sock 2. I'll show you that one in a second. But this is the lovely Moss Eccles.
It's blooming amazing. These are the types of things.
Oh, I love them so much.
I love any project that you knit and you finish and you think, oh my goodness, that is amazing. It looks so gorgeous.
Yeah, these are not this is not blocked yet either,
Right.
so when it's blocked it will just make that lace just pop out a bit more as well. Isn't the colour just gorgeous? I can't stop looking at the colour.
Yeah, it is. It's great.
Oh, it's beautiful. Just such a gorgeous colour, and I'll tell you about the yarn in a sec. So yeah, that's the first one, and here's the second. And look, I'm using a Chowgoo mini twist for this. So I am almost done, look, with the gusset decreases on sock 2. So I will have these finished within the next couple of weeks, and I'm planning on releasing the pattern sometime in June. So not long really. I've got I'll talk about my blanket pattern a bit in Endy Bits, just to give you some more details of that, but that'll be coming out soon, the blanket pattern, and then these will be in June. But I know that I've knit them in this sort of more, it's not really a very summery colour, is it? But the pattern itself I think is very summery because we've got that lace going on, and I just chose this green because it just tied in so perfectly with the design. And the yarn is beautiful. It's from Eden Cottage. It's the Rosedale 4-ply, and the colourway is Algae. So again, matches perfectly with the tarn subject. We had a couple of questions actually when I last showed these, on people asking what a tarn was. And we have said before, haven't we, I think?
We did, I thought we said.
Oh, we did say, didn't we?
Yeah.
But a tarn is basically a lake that's formed by glacial action. And there's lots of them in the Lake District.
Glacial action.
Glacial action.
That sounds great.
It does, doesn't it? They were scooped out by glaciers moving across the land all those thousands of years ago. I haven't deliberately not got on with this, but my focus has been on the blanket, which is now all finished and done. So I can now get on with the other things that are sort of being sat waiting for me patiently to pick them back up again.
What I find with your patterns is that, you know, this is like comparing the Inga hat with that cowl that you've designed for me. The Inga hat is not rhythmical or musical, and it's very difficult to
remember,
because
it's
in
not
music you would never get, I mean, you know, the maximum repeat normally would be 8 or 16 bars, not like 40 bars, which is what this is. What is so great about that cowl is, and I find it with all your patterns, they're musical. There's a flow, and there's like a rhythm that you can sort of settle into, which I really love.
Thank you very much.
In saying that, though, you know, every so often it is quite fun to go ahead and do something.
Yeah,
that's what I would call, that's like Stravinsky. I sang some Stravinsky things in, oh my goodness.
Talking of people singing, did you watch the funeral of the Duke of Edinburgh? I mean, it was so well done. It was beautifully done. But they only had, because obviously of the current situation, they just had 4 choir people singing. But
is that the modern way of
I don't know, choir people.
Probably.
I can't say.
It's probably the safest way to refer to them. Stick with choir people.
I think there was some. They weren't young boys. They were adults.
Choir people sounds good.
Yeah, but there was only 4 of them. There was 3 men and a woman. But the songs they chose were beautiful, and they sang them, you know, they were just, and I said to you actually, will they have any microphones on them? And you said no, it's just their voices in that space. Just was absolutely beautiful.
There would be acoustic microphones picking up.
Yes, but they weren't mic'd themselves. No, because I asked you that question.
You don't need a microphone.
No, you said that. Yeah,
in a cathedral.
But to say there were only 4 of them, the sound that was coming out was just amazing.
Yeah,
beautiful. So yes, my Moss Eccles socks will be finished soon. I have someone test knitting them for me actually at the moment, because I just thought if I wait until I've finished and then get them test knit, then that's just going to add more time. So because I'd finished one sock, I thought, right, okay, I will write the pattern. I will get someone test knitting while I finish the second sock, and then it'll all be ready to go.
Great.
So sometime in June they will be out.
Right, it's time to get down to business. Last time we went for a walk, the Dales really blew us away. So, can the Moors step up to the plate and deliver us a stunning walk?
Well.
Let's go and find out as we once again go walking the moors.
Welcome everyone to a brand new season of walks. Over the next few months we'll be undertaking 5 hikes in the Yorkshire Dales and 5 hikes in the North York Moors. We're going to be walking through a landscape I've spent the last 35 years exploring, and I can't wait to share with you some of my favourite destinations and the stories that surround them. From mysterious castles to beautiful forests and long forgotten villages, in this series we're going to undertake some wonderful adventures. But where are we heading today? I am here, folks. Goodness me. Just getting out of the car on this walk is an adventure. Welcome, everybody, to the North York Moors National Park. We're just a little bit northwest of Borrowby Moor, and we're getting ready for a walk which on paper looks absolutely breathtaking. Last time we took a walk in the moors, we discovered the Cleveland Way. And the fact that not only does that path cross the moors, but it also picks up the coastline of this gorgeous national park. So today, I thought it would be fun if we went in search of that gorgeous coastal trail. This will be our first ever walk by the sea. And there's something very special, isn't there, about being by the sea? There's something in the air, I think. Maybe it's the salt. It must be, mustn't it? Because it feels so different to anywhere else, personally, that I ever go and visit. But maybe it's the sights. Because I think when you walk along a coastline, you're always guaranteed to see some really wonderful things. Just take a look at what's in store for us today. Now, I've got to say I'm slightly worried that my expectations for this walk are already too high, because just being here stirs memories from my past. Growing up, I used to go and visit Scarborough, which is just probably 20, 30 miles down the coast from here, play on the beach with my brothers and go in the arcades. And so as a youngster, that was really, the place which I always looked forward to visiting. As a young adult, when I was just sort of branching out into the world, my mum would often visit Runswick Bay and I would go and meet her there for the day. She used to stay there with a friend and I would go and spend the day with her at Runswick Bay. And it's like 5 minutes drive from this spot. But then in more recent years, taking walks on the beach at Staithes with my own family, and Staithes is one of our destinations on today's walk. So I really am quite excited about seeing the sights that are awaiting us on today's walk, because not only is it going to stir memories for me, but it also is really rich with history. So I think that's enough talk and more action as we once again go walking the moors. I've got to say, I'm rather enjoying starting today's walk in the shade of the woods. I just don't anticipate or expect woods and forest by the seaside. You would have no idea actually walking through here how close we were to the coastline. I wouldn't anyway. All is wonderfully peaceful and calm, and I love it. really is a gorgeous day for walking. And as the seasons change, so does my outfit. It's a slower change than I expected though, I'll be honest, because I thought it would be warmer, and I nearly put on my woolly hat again, but no, my Tilly hat is back out. And I'm once again sporting my Alan Grant look, you know, from Jurassic Park, Sam Neill. This will be my headgear now, I would guess, for the next few episodes. But in saying that, I've probably tempted fate. Because would you believe it, there's there's hail in the forecast later, here, for quite a few hours. So I don't know whether that'll fall as snow or hail or what, but right now, it's strange because the wind is sort of chilly, but the sun is really warm. So I can't decide what to do about my lovely cowl, because I am starting to feel a bit warm. We're out of the trees and into the sun, people, and it's only now that you get a proper blast of that salty sea air and a hint that something exciting might be waiting for us on the horizon. And we're also approaching the first of 3 settlements on today's trail, because at the end of this track lies the village of Hinderwell. So we're making our way into the typical Yorkshire village of Hinderwell. But this is a place with a fascinating little secret, and it all stems from a lady called St Hilda. Now, St Hilda was a nun, and she set up a nunnery and a monastery just up the coast at a place called Hartlepool. And she did such a good job, she got promoted. She was asked to come down to Whitby, which is, you know, crumbs, maybe 25 miles down the coast from here, to set up another monastery and another nunnery. And that one actually, it's another story, but it turned out to be one of the most important ones in all of England, and they found themselves at the very sort of forefront of the development of Christianity across England way back. Crumbs, before even the Norman conquest. It's a long time ago. So I bet you're wondering, what precisely has this place got to do with Hilda, if she did something up the coast and she went off down the coast and did something else? Well, the answer to that question lies in the village church. hidden within this gorgeous church is a holy well. Now, supposedly it sprang forth in 657 AD when Hilda was passing through here. She prayed for water, the well appeared, and it's never disappeared since. The area was suffering from a drought, and so it obviously became a very special place. And I think I found it. Whatever the true story is of Hilda's well and how it appeared, what we do know is this. When this place took on the name of Hilda Weller, there was nothing here, not even a church. There was no village, nothing. But as the pilgrims came to visit, businesses sprang up. And then, of course, a church appeared. And what better name for the church than, of course, St. Hilda's. One last little bit of the story that I think is my favourite. In 1912, the well was in a bit of a state and it needed quite a bit of repairing. And you'll never guess the name of the lady who undertook the repair. It was Hilda, of course. It couldn't be more perfect, could it? As you can see, we finally reached the seaside. Woohoo! Grab your buckets and spades, folks. It's going to get exciting from here on in. But unfortunately, that's all to come in part 2. So, you guys go away and have a little rest. And when I see you later on in the show, we're going to be exploring an old Victorian port. I'll see you later for more Walking the Moors.
I'm such a meanie.
It's the seaside, everyone.
We've only just got to the seaside and part 1 ended.
Oh, isn't it nice to see the sea?
It really was. You're going to see a lot of the sea.
And listen and hear it. And again, I always say this, but I really recommend that you watch, if not all of the, if you don't watch all of the episode, then just the walking element with your earbuds in if you've got them, because it really does make a difference. I had earbuds in watching it, and I even said to you I loved hearing bits of conversation that it was picking up of people that were like over
That's
there.
coming up in part 2.
It was brilliant. I was like trying to hear what they were saying. There was 2 people having a conversation.
Pop
I
in your
couldn't
earbuds
quite hear it.
and you'll be away.
But you hear the noise of the sea and the birds. When you were walking through that, I don't know if you've done that bit yet, you walk through the graveyard.
Yes, we've been there. We just left Hinderwell, haven't we?
All the crows. My ears were just full of noise, the noise of the crows. It's just so immersive to wear earbuds, I think, to have earbuds in and just block out everything else, the ambient noise. It's brilliant.
So we've been to lovely Hinderwell and seen the lovely church.
Yes.
We had a good walk through Oak Rig Wood, but my goodness, when you come back in part 2, there's some images which are going to just blow you away. Like I said at the start of the walk there's something so special about walking by the seaside.
Yeah.
And it is that contrast between the land and the sea. And my goodness, you're going to get to see a lot of that contrast in part 2, thanks to the rather amazing Kevin, who flew like an absolute demon.
Did you see how high Kevin was?
No, they haven't yet.
Oh,
they
wait
haven't.
till you
That's
see
all
how
to
high
come.
he gets.
That's all to come.
I was like, oh my goodness,
In part
Kevin's
2.
all the way up there. I hope he's okay.
So to get to part 2, the first thing we need to do is to find out, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
I have 2 things off my needles.
They're both gorgeous.
Yes, and the first thing...
like, wow.
Yeah, the first thing are some wrist ticklers. The wrist ticklers is a pattern of mine and it's free. So you can download it for free on Ravelry and Lovecrafts. So it's a free pattern and it's just these little simple wrist warmers. And I've got loads of pairs of these. I wear them all the time. I just love them. You just tuck them around your wrists. And, I'm sure I said this before, but I always feel like if my wrists and my ankles are warm, I feel like my whole body's warm. These are great because you can scoot them up. If it gets chilly, you can just scoot them up like this, or if you get a bit warmer, you just pull them down.
Gorgeous
I love
yarn.
them. Yeah, and the yarn, so there's 2. The yarn is from Stripy Cat Yarns, and it's in platform 9 3/4. It's very Harry Potter, I think.
You would think that yellow wouldn't work, but it's what makes it.
No, it does. And I think the grey and the sort of fiery colour, I think that's the train. So
Right.
it's like the smoke and the fire in
Yeah.
whatever it's called, where they put the coal.
The engine.
No,
Coal box.
I don't know what it's called. You know where they throw the coal and the fire's in there?
Should we save that for our
Firebox.
locomotive show?
Yeah, I'll ask Michael.
Firebox, I think you're right.
Everyone. New series. There's a new series of Michael Portillo's Great British Railway Journeys. I just discovered it by accident this morning. I was on iPlayer looking for the next Great British Sewing Bee, which isn't out yet. I got the days mixed up. But it popped up because I typed in great. It popped up. New
What is
series.
cool, though, is that Michael, certainly in the UK, is now available to buy on iTunes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Yeah, which you bought me a load and I've got them on my iPad. I just... If I'm ever stressed or whatever, I just want to distract myself, I just put on Michael Portillo and everything is fine in the world. But yes, new series if you want to watch it on iPlayer, very exciting. This is where I noticed my gauge was different one to the other. Because one is slightly bigger than the other. If I show you, look here, can you see how one is slightly bigger than the other?
Yeah.
And when you look at my stitches...
It's because your right hand is slightly bigger than your left hand.
Yeah.
So it wasn't your gauge, you just deliberately sized it.
No, I mean, I can see that my stitches are slightly bigger on this one than this one. Why that would be, who knows?
You were knitting at a different time of the day.
Well, completely different time, yeah. I can't remember over what sort of time. Actually... I knit one of these and then I left it in the bag and I hadn't touched it for a while and then I picked them up because they were going to be socks.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. I'd left it in the bag, I'd knit it quite some time ago thinking it was going to be a sock, and then I changed my mind, knit this one. So there was a good few weeks in between. So obviously my gauge has changed, but it's fine, it's not a problem. We're human, aren't we, at the end of the day? We're not machines, so these things happen, but they're perfectly fine and beautiful. And I think I'll probably keep them myself. I should really use them as a gift, but I really like the yarn, and they'll be lovely for the autumn. Those colours are very autumny, aren't they? So that's Wristicklers.
And look at this.
And then the other thing I've finished is Bryony's pink hat.
The best thing about this is, because it's always a worry when you're knitting a hat, will it fit and will it look good? And it's a big tick for both of those things.
Yes.
Not only does it fit, it actually looks blooming marvellous.
It does. I'll pop it on in a second, actually.
Oh, wow.
But
You're going to put it on?
I will put it on. The hat itself didn't cause me any grief. What caused me grief was me overthinking everything, which is not surprising. But I initially thought I was going to whip stitch down this brim, and I actually did. And I did record a tutorial actually for whip stitch as I was doing it.
Comes out in the next week or so.
Yep. But after I'd done it, I don't know, I just didn't...
It wasn't appropriate for whip stitching.
It wasn't that so much. I just didn't like it tacked down. It just didn't look right. It didn't need it. I don't think, and didn't look right. So I undid it, and then the other thing that delayed me was sewing on the little felt emblem thing. I sewed it on initially, and I sewed all the way around the felt patch. The problem with that is felt doesn't move when you stretch the hat, and it was causing it all to pucker, and I hated it. It looked terrible. So I undid it all and just left it for ages and just thought about it. And then I thought, right, okay, I'll try something different, because I thought to myself, if you stretch it a little bit, because it's going to be on the head, isn't it? It's on the head and it's stretched a bit. So if I stretch it a bit and then sew it on, that means that when it's on your head, it's going to look fine. And it's just when you're not wearing it that it'll sort of fold a little bit. And I thought, well, that's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also to counteract the problem, I just sewed it down two sides and left the top and bottom open.
Well, that looks perfect.
And I think it's okay. And this little patch comes from, the whole hat is inspired by a hat that Taehyung from BTS wore. And it was made by a company that put this patch on there. I don't know if it was Acme was the name of the design. They were really expensive hats to buy, and it's just a ribbed hat, so that's why I thought I'd make it. So it's actually this long when you undo it, and it's quite a long hat, just 1 by 1 rib and then decreases. I did use the decreases that are in the Pearl Soho pattern, which is classic ribbed hat, I think it's called. However, I took out quite a lot of the plain knit rows because they were just too long. For me, it was just too long. And, I've now got a nicely rounded top to it, I think. Whereas before, it was, I think I cut out maybe 8 rounds of just plain knit, something like that. So I used the formula for the decreases, but I didn't do all of the knit rounds in between. And I think it's worked out perfectly. So you do have to fold the brim over when you put it on, but I think that's fine, because sometimes you might not want it quite as down on your ears as other times. I'm not quite sure where Bryony has the... Oh look, and Taehyung wore it like this. In the picture, Taehyung had it and it was like that, and he was walking around with a hat like that, and this is who Bryony admires. That's not the way I would wear it. So, oh look, no, it's a bit too long. I knit this for Bryony's size of head, and she's got a bigger head than me, but there you go. And it's really comfy and really snuggly and really cosy, and I think it's cute.
Beautiful.
And maybe from a distance, if somebody saw it, where's the patch? From a distance, somebody might think it was a designer hat.
Absolutely.
I used Stylecraft DK, and the colourway was fondant, and I used maybe about 60 grams, something like that, maybe 70 at a push. All finished.
Great.
So Bryony can have that now, even though it's too warm to wear it, but it'll get cold again, won't it?
Well, we're now going to go for a walk along the cliff tops.
Where
so
you
I
probably
suggest
would have needed it.
you go and get your
Yes.
hats. Oh yes, as we return for the second part of Walking the Moors.
Welcome back everyone to Walking the Moors. Oh my goodness, we've reached the top of Chapel Hill, named such because of its close proximity to St Hilda's Church, which we visited just a little bit further back down the track that way. Now, we're leaving some quite ancient history with that of St Hilda's Church, and we're walking into some more recent history, because would you believe that these hills are absolutely chock full of ironstone? And around about 1856 they were absolutely ripe for the plucking. So enter Hilda. Remember Hilda, who did up the well at St Hilda's Church? It was her dad, a man called Charles Palmer, and he decided he was going to build an ironstone mine right here, right on the cliffs. Now, you would think that that would leave quite a big mark, wouldn't you? Quite a big scar on the land, there'd be lots to see. But from where I'm stood here, it doesn't look like there is. Because not only did he build a great big ironstone mine, he also built houses for his workers. So let's go see if we can find anything left of the once huge and bustling Port Mulgrave. Well, there's quite a lot of the workers' cottages left, and you can actually tell that over there there's definitely a bigger house, which was probably the mine manager's house. The stone built and a real eclectic mix, so there's clearly been some building done here too. But a lot of these places now are actually holiday lets, so you can come here and have holiday. And to be honest, I'm pretty stunned. I wasn't expecting much at all. I thought it was going to be a bit ropey, just because it was, I mean, granted it's quite a while ago now, but this was a dirty ironstone mine. But now this is the sort of picturesque, perfect seaside destination that I remember coming to as a kid. It's just wonderful. So we found a few of the houses, so there's definitely evidence of the workers, the people who used to get all the mine out, load it onto the ships, and then off it would go up to Jarrow. But what about the actual mine workings? I'm guessing there's probably not as much of those left, but let's see what we can find. After about 10 years, the mine ran out. But Charles Palmer was not a man to be beaten. And what he did was he actually found more ironstone, just a little bit inland, about 3 miles that way. But he had a problem, didn't he? Because he built this lovely port and he had ironstone all the way over there. How was he going to get the ironstone to the port? Well, the answer was a railway line, and not just an average one at that. It was an underground railway line. Take a look at this. It's all sealed up now, that line, but it's still there. Hopefully quite a few feet beneath my feet. Port Mulgrave actually continued in operation right the way up until the start of World War II. And it was actually the Royal Engineers who came and destroyed the port. And the reason for that was they wanted to make sure that there was no chance that there could be an enemy invasion coming in at all the workings that had been left there to get that iron from the shore onto those barges. I like to think of events in history, international and national events in history, as leaving ripples in the landscape. The bigger the historical event, the larger the ripple. And in all my travels and all my walks, it's most definitely the events of World War I and World War II that have left the most ripples on the coastline. Now, we've actually left Port Mulgrave behind us, and we've picked up the trail that we found the last time we walked the moors. This is the Cleveland Way. And as we leave that more recent history behind us, a much more ancient landscape is opening up before us as we continue on along this wonderful trail. But this isn't just the Cleveland Way. Oh no. This is part of the brand new English seaside path. I'm not really sure of the exact name of it, but I'll link it in the show notes below. This is the world's longest, so I'm told, managed and continuous path. If I wanted to, I could continue on my walk today around the whole of England's coastline. That's 2,795 miles. I think that's a little bit further than I want to go today. 2,795 miles, oh my goodness. What an adventure that would be though. Speaking of adventure, we're coming up on the next settlement on today's trail, and this is a place synonymous with some real boys' own adventures, because in the 18th century this is a coastline that was famous for its pirates. So this is it. We've reached the final destination on today's trail, and it's by far the biggest. It's a gorgeous fishing village called Staithes, and it's been made famous by the children's TV show Old Jack's Boat. Nestled in a natural harbour, it's laying just over the top of the cliffs in front of me. Staithes fishermen actually became renowned across the country and in fact the world for their seamanship, and they often became victim of what we call press gangs. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't have a clue. I'd heard the expression, but I didn't know what press gang meant, or to be press ganged meant. Well, basically what happened was, it's around about the 17th, 18th century, gangs of men would travel around the country. They'd be the army or navy guys, and they would be looking for people who would either be good for the army or good for the navy. And if they found people who were appropriate, they could force them, they could press them into going into service. And there was no way that you could get out of it. Hence the phrase, I've been press ganged, I've been forced into something. Many of the Staithes fishermen actually ended up fighting in the Battle of Trafalgar. And it's when I hear stories like that of people being forced into service and then going off to fight in horrendous wars like that, that I really am so grateful for the era that we live in today. And so we're nearing the end of our lovely coastal walk, but there's one final little treat in store, because just up here is the big house that used to govern this man. I think of it as this part of the world's Downton Abbey, except here the house was called Seton Hall. Well, would you believe it, ladies and gentlemen? We've made it back to where we started, my goodness. And actually, if you're wondering where that railway line came out from the mine, it's literally just over there. I think water now has picked up a little bit of where the tracks used to be, but there is a tunnel entrance somewhere behind those trees. Not really sure where. But that's it, folks. We've finished another walk. My goodness, it's been absolutely wonderful, hasn't it? I've got to say, we had a great time last time in the Dales, but the moors have really pulled it out of the bag, because for me, this has just had everything. And compared to the last walk in the moors that we did, I think what I'm discovering is that the landscape is extremely varied between the moorland and the villages and the landscape surrounding the moorland. And the best walk actually in the moors, I think, is one that picks up a little bit of everything. Wow, what a walk it's been. There really is something special about the seaside, but I think what this walk has taught me the most is there's so much more to see than just the sea when you go visit the seaside. I think what so many of us tend to forget is these are places which are always rich with history, and the reason for that is obvious if you think about it, because this is the place, the coastline of any country, where people come and people go. So stories get funneled into these key points along a coast. It's been wonderful, hasn't it? What an adventure. From St Hilda and her well to Edward Robinson and his pirate adventures across the world, and to, of course, the seamen of Staithes and the battles that they fought. My goodness, I've had a wonderful time, and we get to do it all again when I see you next time, when we'll once again be walking the Dales.
Well, I'm going to go to the foot of our stairs because I was not expecting that. Oh no, when we did that Bows Walk, I thought that would be the peak, the pinnacle of this season. But no, the moors really up the ante, and it's made me pine for more coastal stuff.
Oh, I thought it was wonderful, and especially when, you know, we've not been able to get to places just seeing that, and the coast actually for us is not that far away, is
No,
it?
not far at
Really,
all.
it's not that far. It's not that far away for anyone who lives in the UK. To be fair, I think the most that you're ever away from the coast is about 80 miles or something.
Yeah.
So no one really in this country is that far from the coast, but we've just not been able to get there. And I think the sea is just, there's something about it, isn't there? Just
Like I said before, it's the
so,
contrast between land and sea. It's when you see that it makes you realise not how small and insignificant we are, but how amazing the place is that we get to call home. You know, you can, when you look out to sea, you can quite often see the curvature of, and it's just...
You can, and I can't imagine, I know a lot of people all over the world can live sort of, thousands of miles from the sea.
Oh, yeah. There will be people who've never seen the sea.
And I can't imagine living that far away
It's
from
a
the sea.
gift that we get to, do that. And, well, it's just so lovely. And so it set the old grey cells thinking about future series and things that we might do to capitalise on the fact that we're close to the coastline. So watch this space.
Yes.
But what a walk it was. My goodness, who would have thought the stories that we would uncover and the sights that we'd see, and Port Mulgrave.
I thought that was fascinating. Really fascinating, that story with the mines.
I'll be really honest with you. I thought Port Mulgrave was going to be an absolute dump.
Yeah. Sorry to anyone if there's anyone out there that lives there, but it was lovely.
But how lovely it is then.
It was lovely.
If you do live there, because if everyone thinks that your part of the world is a dump, they won't come and spoil it, will they?
Stop saying dump. That's so awful.
They won't come and spoil it for you, will they? It'll stay sort of lovely and picturesque.
That's true, yeah. It's like one of those little hidden places, isn't it?
That's exactly
and I thought the
what
houses
it was.
were lovely, and when you think that they were all mine workers' cottages and the history and everything, I just thought that was really sweet. And they literally walk out their front door, turn right, and there's the sea.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Walking the Dales will be back in June, because next time Kay is back with My Favourite Colourways, and it's going to be a very special show. It's going to be a very special show because it's close to someone's birthday, but also it's going to be when she releases the pattern, which she has been working on literally for months. This is the biggest, longest single pattern development.
Do you know what? It's that word journey that some people use that we love.
Kay finished the pattern, all done, all finished the other day, and burst into tears.
This is true.
This is how great and huge a design project
That's nothing
this is.
to do with the actual design itself.
It was because you'd reached the end of a long journey.
Yeah, it's all to do with the emotions involved in it, and it's all to do also with my age.
No, don't. I think that's wrong. What you're doing there is you're removing the emotional impact of finishing a long journey, a long project. We've all felt that when something that we've put our heart and soul into, that we worked so hard at. When it's then over, there's a mixture of joy, but also sadness that it's finished.
It was such a weird feeling, It's been in test knitting for a little while, and I'd got the pattern basically written, but I had to finish my sample to photograph it and just get all the extra little tweaks and things done into the pattern.
You also you shouldn't call it a sample.
Oh, sorry, it's not a sample. It's a blanket. I finished the. I don't know what else to call it.
It is not a sample. Kay has knitted the whole blanket
that I knit. That's
not some small patch.
No, it's a good size. It's a good size blanket. And I took the photographs and edited them all and put them all in and did all the little tweaks that I wanted to do and rearranged the layout and did the final page, and I don't know what it was. I finished it and it just suddenly hit me that I'd spent 6 months working on this and pretty much working on it every single day. And then you get to the end of it and I just thought,
it's done.
It's finished.
That's it.
I don't quite know what to do and what to feel, and it was a really bizarre moment. Brilliant, but very bizarre.
So when I tell you that the next episode is a big episode, you now understand why.
Yeah.
Because it's a proper launch of that, but also it happens to coincide with Kay's birthday, and also having a My Favourite Colourways with all those things, I'm sure
Yes.
you're going to come up with something
Yes.
rather lovely.
Yeah, I'm going to have a good think about that because it needs to be a special colourway, I think.
Yes.
You know, and maybe it'll be something that I create.
Yes.
Some new something that I create just for it.
Yes.
You know, that's colours relating to my favourites and things like that. Maybe my favourite techniques, my favourite colours, something along those lines. So just before we move on and I stop talking about the blanket, I've just had a couple of questions from people, and they're sort of common questions that have come up. So I just thought I'd have a quick little bit of info for you. So the main question I've been asked is, what weight of yarn is it knitting? My blanket was knit using fingering weight yarn, and I used a 2.75mm needle. However, you can use whatever weight of yarn you want. If you want to knit the whole blanket in DK, you can do that. If you want to use worsted, you can do that. It's entirely up to you, really. It's a very movable feast. But I used fingering weight, and I used mini skeins, and I used leftovers. So if you think along the lines of, if you enjoy knitting the mitre square blanket, for example, log cabin blankets that are used, that you use scraps for, that kind of a project, if you enjoy those and you've knit those and you like them, then I think I can pretty much guarantee that you will really love this new pattern. And all will be revealed in the next episode.
It's time for the Endy Bits. As we said at the start of the show, there was a lot of information I gave out, and I got quite sort of warm and het up about it. So I'll try and be more concise. Issue 30 of Knitability is now out. We're celebrating our 30th issue, but also, I forgot to say at the start of the show, it's 7 years since the very first episode of the Bakery Bears video show.
It is exactly 7 years.
So this is a big issue for us. So we're having a competition.
7 years.
To win the competition, you need to read the magazine. You can access the magazine here. Everybody can access it. And I mean everybody. You don't need to be a patron until Monday morning. That's Monday the 17th. At 9 a.m, it's free for you to access. Once you get your copy of the magazine, turn to page 23 and then answer this question. I can't remember the question.
What is the pattern? What's the name of the pattern that is on page 23?
That's pictured.
Yes.
So what is the name of the pattern that is pictured on page 23? Once you have that answer, email hello@bakerybears.com and tell us that answer.
Yep.
You have until the 24th of May, 2021 to enter. 9 a.m. on the 24th of May to enter. We'll then random number the winners. And if you remember, the prizes are the lovely gift hamper from Lauren at Lolo Did It, Kay's Swish and Flick Collective, and then also her brand new blanket pattern. It could not be better. So that is our lovely Knitability competition, hopefully given to you in a slightly more concise form there. Oh yes. There was no radio show last week because we were launching our huge issue of Knitability, but it will be back next week. So don't miss that. And that's it. We'll see you in 2 weeks for a huge video show. Oh yes.
Oh my goodness.
There's birthdays, there's huge pattern launches, and also there's a wonderful My Favourite Colourways. So just don't miss it. It's going to be marvellous.
Yes.
So have a great couple of weeks.
Have a great time, everyone.
And we will see you in 2 weeks.
See you soon.
Bye.
Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay the Bakery Bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which they're favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the Bakery Bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the Bakery Bears.